Welcome back to Harville. Jim Webb was a combat Marine in Vietnam. He received 2 Purple Hearts, a Silver Star, and a Navy Cross. He served as Assistant Secretary of Defense and Secretary of the Navy under President Reagan and was elected United States Senator from Virginia. And he could soon be a Democratic contender for president. He'd likely be the only candidate in either party with combat military experience and one of the few with any military experience at all. How would he run against Hillary Clinton? And what would a Webb presidency actually look like? Jim Webb joins me right now. So those are the questions. You know, if you run for, first of all, let me ask you a question. I've always liked leaders like Yitzhak Rabin and Dwight Eisenhower. They tend to be, they go to the presidency or the head of their country without anything to prove. They've been in battle. Jack Kennedy, for example, didn't have to prove his guts as president. Lyndon Johnson, for whatever reason, thought he did. So I don't want people being president to use this as some test of guts. I want that to be established before they get there. Now, that's my judgment. So you are an interesting, attractive candidate for that reason. You've been there. You've been in combat.
Well, I've been able to have a pretty diversified professional life, totally by accident, because after I was wounded, I ended up having to leave the Marine Corps. But I've spent 4 different periods in public service and then 4 different periods out doing other things. And I think we've been able to see the country as it is and have been able to accomplish things in government, but not have to rely purely on government service for
a lot of the heroes of the op-ed pages, the pencil necks, the neocons, love to talk about taking out somebody. They use the military terminology with any idea what they're talking about. They overestimate the benefits of war. They still think you can win a war. They still underestimate the costs of war because they've never been in one. You know both. The limitations of what you... The Europeans, for example, I've heard, they know you don't win wars. You survive wars. Churchill once said, it's not who's right, it's who's left. You know, they get it. We still have this sort of bravado that we could go into a country like Iraq and come out happy.
Well, I think, as you know, I wrote a piece in the Washington Post 5 months before the invasion of Iraq, warning that this was a strategic disaster if it were to happen, that it's going to empower Iran, allow sectarian conflict to grow and those sorts of things. I think we're paying the price of that right now. But also paying the price for the way that the Arab Spring was handled. At the same time,
you saw a lot of that coming.
Yes, I spoke about it on the Senate floor. I spoke about the Iraq War, but, at some cost to some of my friends at the time.
Yeah,
but
military guys.
But also warning about the consequences of the way that we handled the Arab Spring, particularly the Libya situation. But at the same time, I want to say I think I'm among the strongest advocates of the presence that we need to have in East Asia, and we're looking now at the situation in South China Sea that I've been speaking and writing about for 15 years now.
Well, what's the danger over there from a militarized China?
We have been the guarantor of stability in that region ever since the end of World War II, at some cost here and there. But what China has been doing, along with growing its economy, is claiming areas in the South China Sea as their sovereign right. It's a classic tactic over the years by an authoritarian, expansionist country. And they have carved out an area in the South China Sea that is about 2 million square kilometers. That's larger than the landmass of the Philippines, Japan, and Vietnam combined. And over time, over the last several years, they have politicized this area. They've actually declared it as a prefecture in the Chinese governmental structure, and now they're militarizing it. And in order to maintain the stability in that region, we have to address these issues, not simply in a military way, but I think by now with economic, potential economic concerns.
How do we avoid a war with China?
I'm not as much worried about a direct conflict as I am in the imbalance over time that you have with an expansionist power. You saw this with Germany when they decided they wanted to create maritime power when they're basically a continental power. You're seeing it now with China moving toward what we call a blue water navy, an ocean-going navy. They're actually going to be conducting naval exercises in the Mediterranean with Russia right now. And you see an intimidation of an entire region right now. They will not come to the table. We need them. We want them to be a positive contributor to the international environment, and their conduct has not been that way.
Remember when that plane was shot down, the EP-3 over there in the early part of this century? And I thought Hillary was a bit too hawkish on that. She wanted to. I said, "My God, be careful here. We're not going to war with China." You know, this country's war weary right now. You know that.
Well, you know, it's funny. I wrote a piece for the Wall Street Journal right after that plane was shot in 2001. Right. And it was about Chinese expansionism in the region and the measures that we should be taking as a country to make sure that we can promote stability over there. If you look over the generations, in Northeast Asia is the only place in the world where the geographical interests of three historic powers intersect: Japan, Russia, and China. And we have become the sort of the stabilizing factor in the region. Yeah. It's vital. This is the
So Obama's right to pivot to Asia, right?
We did it out of our office 2 years before Obama was elected.
And you're with the trade deal.
I have questions about the trade.
You're not with the trade deal?
I have questions.
What's
about
that mean? You're like Hillary Clinton. What do you mean? This is. I think you're different than Hillary. Are you for or against if you had to vote right now?
I want to see the document. They haven't shown.
I know that because you had to go back.
I want to see the document
still in the Senate,
before I would say, because there are a lot of downsides potentially in this document.
So you're dodging this one right now. The combat warrior is dodging the trade issue.
Not dodging at all. I've issued public statements saying they need to show the actual document to the American people before it's
okay. Are we doing the right thing in trying to negotiate a nuclear deal with the Iranian government, the mullahs? Are we trying to cut a deal so we avoid a war?
I don't think it's to avoid a war. I think what we've seen right now is so much activity by Iran in the region that we have to make sure we don't send the wrong signals into the region about whether we are acquiescing with Iran eventually acquiring a nuclear weapon. That's the problem with that agreement. And by the way, we haven't seen that agreement either.
Okay. Let's go to one area where you
may I make one more point about this, though? And that is that on those types of agreements, you do need the specific consent of the Congress. I said that in Iraq when the Bush administration was also putting together
you want a final approval of the deal.
Not just an approval. I think the Congress should actually vote on the specifics in the agreement itself.
Yeah, you mean a number of amendment votes?
Whatever it takes. That's what our Constitution says.
So when are you going to make a decision to run for president?
Fairly soon.
It's June. Will it come this month?
You know, we're doing this in a very careful way. There are huge consequences on the other end of an announcement.
When does a candidate for president go from an I to a we? When did that happen? Everybody says we're deciding, but when you do take positions, it's you taking a decision.
Well, I think as a collective we.
Are you commander-in-chief material?
I would leave that to the voters, but
when are you going to do it?
I'm comfortable with making decisions with respect to our national security.
You agree with Hillary on trade. You agree with her on the no. I think she's with the deal on Iran, but you haven't decided whether.
I haven't. No, this is about the country.
You've faced greater dangers than me, sir. So thank you for coming on, Senator Jim Webb, who served our country. Up next, the new push to free a former U.S. Marine held captive in Iran right now. This is serious business. Talk show host Montel Williams is waiting in the other room here to come in, and the Marine's sister's also coming here to make the case to get this guy back home here. And this is Hardball, the place for politics.